Hi there, Kimberly Flanagan of Kimberly's Quilts. I'm here with another quick tip on what is baseline. I know that everybody knows that that little button exists, but what is it? What does it do? And should you be using it? I'm going to jump in my Pro Stitcher here and I'm going to share my screen so that we can all follow along together. Here we are in Pro Stitcher, and as you can see, I have nothing active on my workspace. The first thing I want to point out to you is over here in your Edit tab, none of these icons are activated. They're all grayed out because none of them are valid options yet. But as soon as I start to pull in a design, and we will just pull in and let's see, a continuous line design, and let's just randomly pick our clover leaf. Now, if I go over to Edit tab, you'll see that I now have active buttons that will allow me to start doing things to this design. What I want you to pay attention here is the History tab. The History tab now says that I have loaded a design. Let's see what happens to that History tab when I start doing things to this design. I'm going to first come in here and maybe I'll modify it by resizing it and making it smaller. Whoops, wait a minute. I didn't mean to go that small. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. Now let's see what we might have in our History tab. Oh, look, for every one of those actions, I now have an entry in here. Load design, resize, resize, resize. So I'm now starting to accumulate quite a few actions against this design. Okay, I now have it the right size that I want. What happens if I come in here and I'm going to start repeating this and setting it up as an edge to edge? I've got some horizontal. Now I've got some vertical. Now I might come in and I want to reposition this over here. So I'm going to come in and reposition my start point. Now what's when we go over to our history? Now we see that we have a whole lot more activity that's been done to this clover edge to edge design. What baseline does, a huge myth, and I want you guys to make sure you understand, baseline does not ever save your design. In order to save your design, you have to actively go to the File, Save, and save it here. Just hitting baseline does not save your design. If you have a machine failure, if you need to shut down and restart, you will have to know all of these actions that you did here to recreate this design in order for you to continue your project. So let's go over to the Pro Stitcher tab. What I tell people is you need to here, and right before you start stitching this out, is you need to hit baseline. Now you'll see that it's grayed out, which means there's no actions that have been taken against this design since you last baselined it. If I were to come in here and say I reposition this to here, you will now see that my baseline tab is now active again. That means something has changed on my workspace since the last time I baselined. So let's baseline. Now when I go into my history tab, you will see that the last command is baseline. Why does that matter? What this has done, it has taken all of the actions that have happened to this design since your last baseline, or if you haven't baselined yet, since you started and loaded this design. And it has merged all of these actions together into one command that Pro Stitcher has to remember. If any of you guys are familiar with computer technology and how computers work, it's almost as thinking of this as your cache. Every command that your computer would execute has to go back to your memory and retrieve that. Well, as fast as our machines tend to stitch, we don't want it having to read every one of these commands just to stitch a stitch within Pro Stitcher. So by baselining it, we've merged all of those commands together and said, this is the one action I want you to take. It makes your Pro Stitcher run much more efficiently and you have much better results. If you're experiencing random crashes or bizarre messages that may indicate that your Pro Stitcher is outstitching the number of commands here, try baselining. I tell all of my students that right before I ever hit the run button, I look here to see if baseline has been is grayed out or not. If baseline is not grayed out, then I hit baseline and I know that when I go to my history command, baseline is going to be the last thing I see, and there's not going to be any merging of all of these commands that follow below with every stitch my machine makes. I hope that helped, and I hope you remember, if nothing else, baseline does not save your design, and that you need to do it the last thing right before you hit your run button.